Well, it's been a
You,
while, guys.
It
yeah,
has
you
been. Hi.
like a sight for sore eyes. I missed you, fellas.
Yeah, I thought you
It's
all
been
were mad at me.
almost a month.
I know.
It's hard to believe.
How was your hiatus? Did you win that Oscar, Eden? I didn't watch. I don't know if you got Best Actor or not.
No.
Runner up.
Damn Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah,
Well,
they're very talented, which is not something I say about myself.
Too modest, man. I was
All
pulling
is
for you.
good. All is good.
mm,
So people don't realize, like, we didn't talk for like a month, like a text here and there, but I feel like I have no idea what's happening in your guys' lives. So I hope all is well, that you're busy and springing into spring and all of that.
Yeah, man. Are we calling this season 2? Is this the season? Because I mean, we had a
I
little
think we're in
hiatus.
second spring. I think
Part
we
two,
went
at
through
least?
full spring,
full spring.
and now we're back to winter and hopefully going into second
Oh.
spring, which
I
will
mean,
hopefully be the final spring.
But season 2 of the podcast. I mean, is it because we had our little, we had our off season. We're going in like.
you know what? We got
completely
Ian's
misunderstood
mind
your
picking
question.
weather.
And I
It's
took
all
your
right.
question very seriously,
Yeah,
trying to
second-
explain the climate here in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Season 2 of the podcast. I don't know. I'll have to think about how we break that up.
Man,
I'm not
yeah.
sure. Good question.
At least part 2, right?
Part 2.
It's an honor that
Hopefully-
you that I'm joining in season 2. This is
Yeah.
like when you're
There you go.
Don't hard launch season 2. I'm not sure if it's season 2, but we can figure that out.
Yeah,
But
guys,
Mike,
I can
regardless of what this
Doesn't
is,
matter.
Mike, we're honored to have you on the podcast and super excited for that.
thank you
And
very
thanks for
much.
joining
An
us.
intermission of season 1. Like we don't know. That's
It
the
was
curtain-
definitely an intermission. We can agree to that, I think.
We can
Yeah.
agree to that. Yeah. No, well, I mean, because our intrepid producer, Nancy Hess, was globetrotting. She was in the
Globetrotting.
Hawaiian. Yeah, she was in the Pacific Ocean swimming with the dolphins and the sea turtles.
And she deserves it. I mean, Nancy
she
works
does.
so hard and does so much, not just for this podcast, but just
A
in
ton of
general in
things.
her contribution to the municipal government world. So we were happy to sort of honor that and be excited for her trip, which is good.
Although it was not without its downfall. She said she came back with a few minor injuries from having to navigate the complex terrain of the Hawaiian landscape. So hopefully she has a full recovery from her vacation or gets sometimes you come back, you need a vacation from vacation.
Yes.
I'm sure we can all relate.
They're
But-
not injuries, they're experiences, all right?
That's right. Experiences, ones you
Oh,
can hopefully
definitely.
take with you to get you through the hard times of the year. Well, let's get started. What do you say?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome everybody. Welcome to our listeners, guests, and everyone else and my esteemed co-hosts. Welcome to Generation on the Rise. This is our podcast that we talk about all things local government, all things in the zeitgeist, and we try to do so through the lens of the up-and-coming generation, the next generation of leadership and public officials in our local government space. I am your host for the day, Dave Prabolka from Keystone Municipal Solutions in Bellefonte Borough in Center County, Pennsylvania, where I'm currently interim manager, joined as always by Eden Ratliff of Middletown Township in Bucks County and Brandon Ford of Lower Merion Township, also both in the Philadelphia area. And we do have a guest today. I'm going to introduce him in just a moment, but before I do, let me remind our listening audience that the opinions and expressions you are about to hear on this podcast are ours and ours alone and do not necessarily reflect those of our esteemed employers and the municipalities that we work for, as well as the International City Management Association, the Association of Pennsylvania Municipal Managers, the Pennsylvania Municipal League, your fantasy baseball league, and of course, the great Timothy Chalamet. So I'm going to introduce our guest. The topic today is artificial intelligence. I'm really excited to get to it. We have an expert, a local expert in this subject. Yes, I'm calling you an expert, Mike. Congratulations on your promotion. His name's
No
Mike
pressure.
Baumwoll. Mike, why don't you introduce
Better listen to
yourself?
it, Mike.
That's right. Give us a little background, what you do, talk about your company and your CV, your bona fides in this industry.
That's the first time I've been called an AI expert.
Man.
I'm really an expert on anything, so I appreciate that promotion. But gentlemen, thank you so much for having me today. Y'all are Mount Rushmore of Pennsylvania, and so it's an honor to be chatting with you guys. I'm also just a first time caller, long time fan of this podcast. So I think what you guys are doing is fantastic, and I'm fanboying a little bit here. So Great to be on the podcast, guys. I'm Mike Baumwoll. I'm the CEO of Rept, CEO and founder. And my background outside of being a dad, because I would say that's the first job and the most important one, and you will likely hear or see a scream in the background, is so Rept is short for represented. It's the first AI communications platform for local government. Really what we're trying to tackle is a problem that a lot of folks, a lot of managers feel, and local government officials, leaders feel across the country, we've heard, is that there's an education gap between what residents think y'all do and what y'all actually do. And if you mix into that gap or that stew, if you will, trolls, misinformation, social media in some cases, and folks generally who have too much time on their hands, that gap starts to widen. We know a thing or two about this, and I say we because my business partner and I, we worked at Twitter for 15 years collectively and saw sort of the ins and outs of what that was like and how difficult it was to communicate authentically without trolls getting in the way on social media. And so we actually quit our jobs there and built Rept with the goal of humanizing local government. We believe, like in our bones, that once residents and local community members realize that government is made up of people in their community, neighbors, friends, hardworking professionals who give a damn about the success of those communities and oftentimes live in those communities. Once they can put a face to government, trust is instantly starting to build, and that gap starts to close. We see this over and over again in the communities we serve. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about Reps. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Love it. No, appreciate that background there. And I want to get into the topic today. We'll kind of focus on the broad applications of artificial intelligence, the technology that's emerging, that exists, and how we might make good use of it with the communities that we serve. This is not a new tech. I mean, or the concept, I should say. It's evolved at a pace maybe more quickly than any other time in human history. But I mean, it goes back. I was doing some research. Believe it or not, we do a little research on this show. It's not entirely off the cuff.
Yeah, we're not winging it.
We're not winging everything, right? A little bit.
Everything.
Not me. Not me. I don't do homework.
Okay, well, other than Brandon, but
Brandon's got a lifetime tradition of that. We should have told his students that back when he was a school teacher, but missed opportunity.
You were a history teacher, right?
That's why I saved to pull that out after I got out of the classroom.
Yeah, that's good.
Going back to the English mathematician Alan Turing, he created the Turing test. Some of you might remember the 2014 movie Imitation Game. That was actually the name of it. And basically a way to determine whether computer learning could mimic human intelligence. And back in the 1950s, it was very, very simple. And even all the way through, the 60s and 70s, it maintained that simplicity, things that today we would never consider as really anything more than just parroting human response, pre-programmed human response. 1964, an MIT experiment, ELIZA, was, kind of the first application of the Turing test in a scientific setting. It was very rudimentary. It was, asking an IBM computer questions. Hey, you remind me of my father. It would respond back, why do I remind you of your father? And it was just, it wouldn't even put question marks in because that would break the code. It was so, kind of what we would consider so rudimentary, so basic. I don't think any of us here in this room would ever think, man, I wonder if that's a real person or not. Fast forward through the 60s and pop culture, that's kind of emerged as a real theme, both in dystopian movies like the 68 classic Stanley Kubrick film, 2001 Space Oddity. That was HAL. I can't do that, Dave. For the younger generation listening to that podcast, this was there were movies made in the 1960s, believe it or not. And this is one of those classics. It was actually co-written by Arthur C. Clarke, who, of course, famously wrote Childhood's End. But the point is that artificial intelligence is both old and new, but the application in what we do, I think, is very new. So, gents, I want to ask you, Eden, I'll start with you. What's your assessment of this technology, its application to local government, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I think local government has to be able to adapt constantly, right? As the world sort of changes around us, that changes the world of which we are governing, which also changes the expectations of those that we are governing and delivering services to in terms of what they expect out of their local government. So we have managers who will say things like, yeah, I'm not leaning in on AI. And I'm sort of thinking quietly, like, well, you sort of have to, right? Because the folks, depending on where you are in the country, of course, and the culture of the community, the folks that you're providing services to are expecting us to sort of keep up in our service delivery and the board's ability to govern their community based on sort of societal trends and expectations. So with all that being said, I'm sort of leaning in, trying to learn and understand. I'm not naturally techie, despite being sort of a young person and growing up with phones and email and computers and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm constantly trying to learn, talking to people like Mike, talking to others in the industry, and just figuring out what AI can do for us and trying to understand how it's being utilized in my organization already. I will say things like, if you are a manager and you're not using AI and you're not sort of having that AI conversation with your teams, folks on your teams are using it.
They're using
Yeah.
it.
They're
Yeah.
paying for their own subscriptions. They're using AI. They're just experimenting and trying to figure out how to make their jobs easier, how to streamline their roles, whether you're ready for it or not. So if you don't have a policy on that, you probably should consider that and sort of look into what's happening in your organization and how you sort of want to manage that. In addition, partners that we use, consultants, partners, technology, they're using AI on the background,
Yeah.
whether you even know about it or not. Like it's happening. Like
Yeah.
AI is a part of our society. It's not something you can sort of ignore and not be a part. Like I remember the days where sort of social media was sort of creeping into local government and the conversations we were having, at conferences like, well, should you have an Instagram page? Well, should you have a Facebook? What are you going to do with it? Right? And it was sort of a decision point. I don't think we're at a decision point on whether or not AI is going to be part of local government. I think the decision is how much of it are you going to use and how much are you willing to know
Yeah.
about its impact on your ability to deliver services. So all that to be said, I was sort of leaning in, trying to understand it, learn it, understand sort of what decision points we have, and then how we can leverage that to enhance what we're doing for our community.
Yeah, that's a great distinction. I didn't even think about that until you just said it. With social media, which I thought there's a lot of parity between the two, but you're right. Like our staff wasn't going out and starting a Facebook page for our municipality, like without our knowledge or
Oh, that's
approval.
not true.
Well,
I've seen that happen. I've been in local governments where there's
Yeah.
7 different Facebook pages for the community, and it's like, how did this happen? It's like, well, this department decided they wanted to have a Facebook 15 years ago, so they started one.
well, maybe so, but it was much more overt. It's a lot
Sure.
less, I hate to say insidious, but like somebody gives you a report and it's hard to see anymore whether they got that, was that Chat GPT generated or was
And I
that,
find myself asking that all the time.
all the time?
I saw, I got basically a report yesterday and I'm reading it. I'm like, is this AI? Is this
Yeah.
ChatGPT? M dashes are the giveaway for anyone who doesn't know,
Yeah.
right? ChatGPT is sort of famous for the M dash. I feel so badly for anyone who was using M dashes before ChatGPT. I was not one of those people. But when I get certain things that I see or emails that are just heavy on the M dash, I'm like, yeah, this person put it into
All chatbot.
ChatGPT, spit out, right? And by the way, I'm not sure how to feel about that. Like
Right.
sort of going sideways. Like, do you care? Like, if you get an email from somebody that beyond a reasonable doubt that it was formulated with ChatGPT or AI or whatever, or some sort of chatbot, does that bother you at all?
I
Like, are
think
you
it
sort of
depends
like,
on the
they didn't take the
situation.
time to respond to me. Yeah. So I don't know. I
I
sort of
think it
go both
depends.
ways. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it depends on the situation. Like, what is the email about, right? If it's, just some simple thing, like I'm not going to think too hard about it in terms of did they use AI. But if it's like a performance review or if it's like a report or an analysis and it's just pure AI, like that, and I could tell that they've not put any of their own authentic effort into it. I think that is when it starts to really bother me.
Yeah, so let me
That's just
ask, if
me.
you were to get a complimentary email from someone above you in your organization, manager, board
Yep.
member, something like that, and it was just telling you, you did a great job on this thing that you did, this project that you delivered on, this was great, and you could sort of tell that it was probably a chatbot. Does that make you feel differently? Do you appreciate that recognition less?
No, no, that just me personally. No, that
Yeah.
not gonna bother me. But
Yeah.
if I ask someone for, an analysis of something, and I could tell that it's purely, just tossed into the mill and spit out. And, I actually had an example not too long ago where, I'm in Lower Merion about 3 years now. And, that's kind of like at the cusp of AI is what, last year and a half, really. If I could tell
Probably a little more than that, but okay.
A little bit, but
like, I'll give it,
terms of
like,
the
2
heat.
years, right? Give it 2 years. But if I could see a drastic shift in their writing style and the
Yeah.
sophistication of their writing, I'm like, "That's AI."
Yeah.
How much of that is your own actual work, or did you just toss it into the program and spit it out, right?
Right. Yeah.
And,
No idea.
Dave, I wouldn't use the word insidious. I would use the word intrusive regarding AI because now it's just built into everything. whether, our employees are intentionally seeking out these AI platforms or not, right? And more likely than not, more likely than anything else, they're not. It's built into Outlook. Hell, it's built into Facebook nowadays. Every program you use, AI is
LinkedIn.
built into it. LinkedIn, right? And that's a question, right? How much do we rely on AI? And
Yeah.
I have a question for our guest. I want to loop him into the conversation. You said AI communications. For listeners not too familiar, what is AI communications? Is it, as Eden was saying, drafting emails, or is it more, my example of writing reports, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a great question, and also I've loved this conversation thus far. I have some thoughts on the matter. With respect to AI communications, it's not. I'll say what it's not first. It's not AI video. It's not AI generated content
Deep
in that
fakes.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
anything, I mean, our focus is authenticity in the human connection. I think, and this maybe goes into the broader conversation. It's about helping those who want to communicate authentically have a draft, have a prep when they're going to speak with residents. And so, one example that we have, AI communications really means we built a platform that we're effectively an ask button on municipal pages that residents can ask questions and get answers. What that does is that is an AI chatbot, but what it does is actually creates, a wave of insights and information that come from that AI chatbot and then provides context and allows the person to communicate and respond to the resident questions and needs. We also have functionality like we can help build a draft of a script. So if you want to record an answer to talk about what's happening at the infrastructure, the project downtown, AI can help draft something for you to just make the process faster and more efficient. And I think this goes back to the conversation that you guys were having, right? I think there is a fundamental shift. It's no longer AI or no AI, to your point, Eden. I think it's really how am I going to use it and at what level? I kind of think about it. Social media, I think, is an apt, comparison. The internet may be more apt as well, right? What was pre-internet versus post-internet? I think that change was a huge sort of shift in reality for a lot of folks, and people are thinking about AI in that kind of terms.
But
It's
should
pre-AI and
they be
post-AI.
though? I mean, and this is something you and I talked about yesterday a bit, Mike. And
Yep.
because and I want to get your take on this because your position was, you have concerns about this technology and how it's evolving, but they're not quite in line with my concerns. And the point I'm making by that is like when you're trying to draw parity between artificial intelligence and the use of email or social media as tools that help us be more effective in our jobs. There are some similarities, but there's a lot of difference with AI, and that's the pace of development and evolution in this technology. The fact that the four of us couldn't even necessarily agree on when AI started to come on our radar in local government. Brandon says a couple of years ago, Eden says a few years before that. I'm probably more in Eden's camp, but it's so shifting that paradigm. It's so hard to say, well, this is when AI really had its, was in its infancy, and this because it's evolving at a pace that none of us can predict, and quite frankly, none of us can control. Does that give you concern because you live in this space across different states, different size municipalities, you provide different services? What do you think about just the evolution of this and the fact that, quite honestly, it seems in many ways to be this runaway train that has no guide rails, and government, very conservative industry by tradition, very reluctant to be on the bleeding edge of some of these technological advances. How do you balance that in this industry? Don't
It's
everybody
difficult.
jump in I mean, it's next
No,
question.
it's a head scratcher because it's not necessarily an easy one to answer. I think my first thought in terms of AI was Siri, right? That was really the first practical application on my phone. I could ask it a question, it can give me an answer, although it wasn't quite good. And Apple has kind of lagged behind in terms of their development with AI, which is funny. But that was my first sort of interaction with AI. And since Siri, it's sped up, and the pace at which AI has been innovating. The reason why it's hard to compare it to anything else is because nothing's moved this fast before. Social media hasn't moved this fast. The internet, the evolution of the internet hasn't moved this fast. And where it's gone, I mean, if you think right now, what we have today, the tools we have access to today, and in 6 months from now, a year from now, we don't know. I think that's what creates a lot of anxiety. We talked about this a little bit, Dave, yesterday. The anxiety is around the unknown. Like, we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know how it's going to sort of become part of our daily sort of setup. It's definitely here. And I think, Brandon, to your point, in every facet of what we do, there is an AI element, right? On one side, you have technology companies where the pressure and the money is being poured in and is sort of rising every single day. They feel it. If you're not in the AI game, if you're not providing tools that have AI in them, you're kind of behind. On the other side, you have residents, consumers, and frankly, in this case, local governments who are historically and understandably so, have been a little bit hesitant to jump into innovation because of the number of services, the regulations, sort of like the rules. There's an understanding there. So I think we're now at this point where it's starting to crash together, and we're trying to figure out how to use it in a practical way. I always think about my mom when it comes to AI. That's a weird thing to say, but how would she use it? She's not technologically advanced. She doesn't, she's a wonderful lady, mom, if you're listening. She's a therapist. She will make you cry because she's very good at what she does. But, it's a scary thought to her. So I think the more we can wrap our arms around AI in terms of the practical nature of using it, the lower, for me at least, the anxiety levels are.
When I think about that, I think about employees that I work with now and that I've worked with in previous organizations who have been in the workforce for a long time. And you see sort of these sad situations where folks have been left behind by technology.
Yep.
I sort of blame the organization more often than not, right? Did we prepare our folks to sort of understand the change in the technological landscape? Or did we just give them a computer, show them how to open Outlook and say, learn how to email, all those years ago? And I'm sure there's a million different stories across the country about, this sort of dynamic and how it's unfolded with our teams. But my question is, how are we making sure that we're not leaving people behind, right? Because I think investing in our employees, training our employees, giving them experience, exposure, managing expectations about what we expect of them in order to use this technology, but also what we don't expect. Like, I don't expect the overwhelming majority of my team to be experts in AI and to understand how artificial intelligence is enhancing our service delivery. Like, I don't. But if I don't say that, if I don't communicate that, what individual thoughts or intrusive thoughts, as we might say, are they having about it? So I think there's sort of a broader non-technology based conversation that needs to have there, which is sort of the managers nurturing and caring for our organizations in the ever-changing landscape.
Yeah, Brandon, what do you think about that? What do you think about the role of management in establishing the culture and philosophy that drives not just these AI decisions, but all kind of the application of technology in our communities, how we make use of that?
I'm trying to get my thoughts together, but I would kind of refer to our podcast episodes for listeners who haven't heard it. Go back about managers being change agents, right? And it's all about facilitating that culture. And I think it was Eden who said embracing technology, before it's too late or you get left behind. And right, and I'm just thinking of I'm not sure if you know the individual, Dave, but without names, Eden and I know an individual that had a very, I would use the word firestorm LinkedIn post railing against the use of AI. And it, did some trolls come out? Yes, trolls are on LinkedIn. But it was a real head scratcher. And it really crystallized to me, at least, that there are going to be individuals, and this isn't, a tenured manager either. This manager is relatively newer to the profession, relatively on the younger side of the spectrum, and just against AI. And I think the manager has a crucial role in terms of whether it's embracing it, supporting it, or even just enabling a culture for organizations to have that conversation. As Eden was saying, whether it's technical training or just a non-technical conversation about we are as an organization, what tech is out there, what should we be utilizing, and how best do we position the organization to move forward.
And by the way, footnote, like, if to our listeners, and if anybody's watching this podcast on video, you can actually see this taking place. You can tell how like novel this subject is to many of us in this position, because we are still forming our opinions about this. We're still
Yep.
forming our thoughts, our perspectives, how much we want to permit it, how we want to adapt to it. It's not something like many of the other subjects that we beat up on this show, where we have formulated entrenched feelings and positions on. This is so
Especially
evolving.
Dave when it comes to entrenched feelings.
Oh yeah, ain't that the pot
Don't get
calling the
us
kettle
started on
black?
Yeah. Oh,
residency
come on now.
requirements.
I like to think I'm a Renaissance man. Mike, what do you have to add to that? Anything on
Wow.
that before I move on?
Yeah,
Or,
it
or
so
not?
Yeah.
no, I'm taking advantage of my pause. This happened the other day. My company, we're hiring, right? And I think Eden, you brought this up before, and Brandon, you were discussing it about people using AI to generate reports and content. I was worried. I got 125 applications for a role that we were hiring for within probably 3 days. I mean,
Wow,
my first
Wow.
thought was,
that's
Oh, that's a
crazy.
good one.
it's good, but LinkedIn
Unless
also
it's
allows
crap.
the one click to apply, which frankly was
Yeah,
a lot of
that's terrible.
not great. But my first thought was, what percentage of these resumes were created with AI to fit exactly the requirements that I'm looking for? And so you can't help but think about those things. There are so many practical applications, and this is something that Dave and I were talking about yesterday. I think the moment you take a step through the doorway and start playing with the different tools that exist out there in terms of AI, is the moment that the light turns on and you start to realize how powerful it can be in terms of making your day easier and more effective. The dog knows what I'm
Your
talking
dog
about.
agrees. Whoever's
Yeah.
dog that is.
That's Eden's.
Hey, Eden's dog agrees.
Yeah.
She's
Uh,
got some things to
sounds
bring
like
to this. Yeah.
the dog was the one that made the LinkedIn post, was really upset about AI. But I think it's a balance, right? I always think about AI as a tool, like how do we leverage a tool to make our jobs more effective? And there are lots of ways that we can do that. And your employees are doing it. My employees are doing it. It's happening. You can't stop that train. But it's also a draft. I think of AI as like the first draft. It shouldn't be the entire document or report or budget, but in my mind, using it as giving it a first pass with a human lens is the approach. And I think that's really going to be sort of the headline or the summary of how I feel about AI is it can be incredibly helpful. And the amount of things you can build and create and time can be saved, fantastic. But there should always be a human lens. And I think that's the piece that is important to me. With respect to training, with respect to bringing on new employees, staff members who might be a little bit older who are getting into AI, the idea is like we should certainly encourage folks to test it and try it, because if you don't, you might be a little bit behind the eight ball. But don't expect it to do the work for you. There should always be a human lens to the work that you do.
Well,
So
and
let me just ask the question, right? So one of my favorite things to do in local government when we have sort of a big contentious issue or a project or something we're trying to accomplish is to like talk about it with the public. Whether it's a town hall meeting or in a public meeting, or we have project meetings in neighborhoods sometimes where the public literally comes out. I can stand there face to face with them, shake their hand, ask them their name, introduce myself, and talk about it, because that is the human element. Because all of a sudden you're breaking down sort of the walls and the intimidation of local government. And now you're just standing in the senior center or town hall or wherever, talking about something. And all of a sudden it's not, yeah, the township wants to do this thing and it's going to ruin my community. It's all of a sudden it's, no, I met with Eden, or I talked to the public works director and they explained, sort of the incrementalism that's necessary for this larger project and how that's going to positively, impact my community. I mean, that's the human element, right? Like I am one of the crazy managers that like gives out my cell phone number. I get texts and calls from community members. I don't want to say all the time, but like sort of regularly. And I'm happy about it, because to me, I can just respond and we can talk about something and have a meaningful conversation. They might not like what I have to say. They may not appreciate the information or the answer I'm giving them, but they're getting it. There's that human element. So I guess, Mike, with what you're talking about and with the work that you do, like how can we use, what's really intense, enhanced technology that may be leaving people behind? How can we, as sort of local government leaders, utilize that to further that sort of human element and connection of local government into the community. And I'm curious about how that's scalable, right? Like Brandon and I are in somewhat, larger communities for Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
40 and 60,000 people. Dave's in a relatively small borough in South Central. You have clients all over the country, some that are huge, right? Six-figure populations and some that are very small. So I am curious as a part two as to how that is scalable for those communities.
Yeah. So our perspective is always, and really the reason we created this company, right? We quit our jobs to build this thing is because that education gap. The moment people feel like they have a connection, have a relationship with government, that government has a face, it is not a faceless entity, is the moment of transition in my mind. And I live in a small community in Westchester County, New York, right? I want to know the people who are doing the work. I want to meet whether the elected officials. I'm probably the only person in my town or village that wants to know the village manager. Like I want to shake his hand because I know the work that you guys do every single day. And can I just say, holy shit? Sorry for cursing. Yeah,
Beep.
I know. All right, yeah. Sorry, Nancy. The amount of effort and passion and work that goes in to make a community run that I am now privy to because I've been doing this for a couple of years, just among heroes of government. And so I want to shake the hands of my sort of local leaders to let them know, like, there aren't a lot of people that know what you do, but I can promise you I have a pretty good sense as to what I know. And so the idea from our perspective, and I'll get to your point in a sec, is how can we showcase the human element of government? And what you're talking about, Eden, is like, I don't want to just hear from the manager. I want to hear from the parks director. I want to hear from,
Mhm.
the gentleman or the gentlewoman that's picking up our trash. Like I want to know the people who are doing the work every single day because that's what makes government run. And so from my perspective, that's layer one. That's the necessity, the human element. Where you can add AI is how can you make it easier for those folks to be able to tell their story? Because one of the things that I get nervous about with AI is AI generated content. It exists. It's easy to make. It's getting easier and easier every single day to create videos, content that are not human generated. That's what makes me nervous. So I think the closer we get to the human element, the better. But leverage AI to help you get there. Leverage AI to understand what are the insights that people care about in your community. What are the themes coming through, and help you build a script for your video if you want to, or create a social post. But it should all come through this human lens. And I think the stories should be told by the people doing the work every single day. But AI can certainly play a practical role in helping you get the work done and get it done faster so you have more time to storytell. Because I think that's the missing gap. Government
Brandon,
has so many
give me your
stories to
thoughts
tell.
on that, because
Sorry, guys.
I have a counterpoint I want to make, but I want to know where you fall in this, kind of framework before I get human element
I
or AI, right?
yeah, I always value that human element, right? And I think my view on AI is perfectly encapsulated by what Mike was saying, that I view AI as a tool. And if it is a tool that can help my employees, those in the township, kind of help streamline items so that they can really shift focus on that human element, I'm all for it. It also emphasizes the importance that, you can't just put blinders on and try to ignore that this is here, this is integrated into operations. You can't just leave it on the side of the road, so to speak, and keep driving. You have to put guide rails in place. You have to outline expectations. And I think that's where these conversations that Eden was referencing earlier, you need to have those conversations with staff. And you need to outline, hey, this is a good place and a useful tool as a starting point or a draft, but it is our expectation that you bring personal experience and expertise to a topic or a project or whatever, and we expect that to continue. However, here is a tool to help you hone that, support that, strengthen that, so that you can really do where the value is really at, connecting with people, whether, you're a public works employee, connecting with individuals about why recycling is the way it is, or you're talking to an individual who's upset about taxes. To
Mhm.
me, it's an opportunity that, the opportunity cost is too great to ignore it.
So I'm glad you kind of there seems to be a common theme amongst you, and quite honestly, I agree with you in terms of the aspirational goals of the application of this technology and what it is we do, and connecting the human element in a more meaningful, profound way to the residents that we serve and our boards. But quite honestly, I think the argument breaks down in a couple of ways, or that application is under serious duress with this
Mhm.
particular technology compared to anything else we've ever encountered. I'm going to give you a data point on data, actually. And this is thanks to a former coworker of mine, Megan Sokolow. Shout out to Megan Sokolow, Livingston County, brilliant information governance expert. Really knows what she's doing, has been on the forefront of this tech in a lot of different ways. But she told me once that 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years. 90% of the data that's stored in existence was created in the last 2 years in the world. I validated that in some research I did before this podcast. 101 zettabytes. I didn't even know what a zettabyte was. Zettabyte is
You just made that
200.
up.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like it. 1 zettabyte equals 250 billion with a B DVDs. So 181 zettabytes of data in existence by the end of 2025, predicted to double every 10 years. That is an enormous amount of data on a scale that most of us can't even wrap our heads around. It's cosmic in perspective. So when I think about how we make that application of AI and human element, where I really struggle is, number one, data integrity, the old garbage in or garbage out phase. And Mike has, I think, developed a tech to kind of make that maybe a little bit more seamless. But also, we act as though we could take this technology and we can like put it in a box and we could build these guide rails around it and we can establish policy that's adhered to. Guys, I just don't know that that's the case with artificial intelligence. It is so unpredictable. I mean, people are marrying chatbots. That's how our society has evolved. Like, talk about the Turing test. I mean, holy smokes. You're now thinking about people have relationships, personal, emotional relationships with these artificial intelligence technologies. And I just wonder, and I don't know the answer to this. I'm more just the old man yelling at the cloud. How can we do that? Local government, we don't have a lot of these tools that the big tech companies have to control this technology. What do we do, guys? Help me get this. Mike, is your mom around? Is she? Can I get a session?
Open, I think at 9:30.
I'm ready for a cry.
Yeah. By the way, I think a zettabyte is also known as a probulka. Is that right? That's the same measure.
Yeah.
Easy to
Ah,
pronounce the
3
zettabyte.
probulkas.
one.
A bulk is more, in terms of data retention ability, is more equivalent to like a floppy disk. You know, it's like a couple of kilobytes at best. Yeah. What do you guys think? Is this even possible? Is this just an academic argument at this point? Because we really don't know whether we can do any of this in reality or whether it's going to be this runaway train.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear Eden and Brandon's perspective on this.
Go ahead, Brandon. Jump in.
Uh,
I'm still
yeah,
struggling with the data
thanks for
point.
throwing me under that train.
Yeah, I did. I'm still struggling with the data point of 90% of the
Yeah.
world's data has been created in the last 2 years. And I guess the question becomes, what is data? Like, does it
And
have
how
to be
much of that
online
is
for it to
you?
be data? Like, I'm
Yeah.
just thinking about like the Library
Information.
of Congress, right? Like, there's a ton of information in the Library of Congress. I don't know if it's all online. Maybe it is.
Yeah. And how
Like,
much
does
of
that
that
count?
is
I have no
useful?
idea. Right.
How much of that is useful? How much of that is just crap?
Yeah,
Right.
like, are all of my old like tweets from college that I'm sure are like super stupid but still on Twitter, does that count as data?
That's-
Like,
I can
Yeah.
confirm.
Well, let me put a
Yeah.
finer point on
Thank
this
you, Mike.
because one of the experience, I'm probably going to butcher this in my retelling of it, but a chatbot, I can't exactly remember where it came out of, was asked to provide questioners with recipes for drinks. And the recipes it provided were all fatal. You know, it was like, well, 3 parts arsenic, 2 parts like bleach. And so my point about
Yeah.
this data, flood of data and how we filter it through artificial intelligence models is there's so much crap out there. And even in the closed environment AI models like what Rept has and other technologies have, Mike, how do you keep this noise from leaching in to this technology?
Yeah.
You really
I would
can you?
I would say to the person who made those killer drinks, that was probably ask some other questions that led to the recipes that they were given.
All
And
data,
I
though,
think,
right?
but it is the fundamental thing with AI, and this is, we don't necessarily have to go into the data center conversation. It's Pac-Man, right? What you feed it is what it learns, right? And the amount of data, to your point, Dave, that's flowing into Pac-Man's mouth is tremendous. I mean, it just hasn't been seen before. And it's the reason why there are giant tech companies knocking on local municipal doors saying, hey, we have all this money because we need a data center. I
Yeah,
think
the data center thing is huge. I mean,
Yeah,
that
we could
that
do a
probably
whole
concerns me
episode on
more
that.
than the existing of AI.
Yeah, you guys are the expert on this. One of the things that I looked up yesterday was the percentage if data center, was a pie. What percentage of the data center sort of energy is AI generated versus the rest of the internet? And actually today, Netflix, social media, TikTok, like all these different platforms, including cloud storage, which is a huge one. The majority of it, I think it's like 80% that a data center is powering is not AI. And so
Really?
you watching Netflix, you scrolling on your feed is the internet is powering these data centers for the most part right now. The concern is that that's going to change over the next 3 to 5 to 7 years, and AI will be the leading sort of force in terms of that pie. So I think that's the anxiety, and it's growing at such a pace that the data centers are going to be majority focused around AI, and the amount of water and electricity and what that's going to do to your bill. All those pieces will come into play. But that was an interesting stat for me. I didn't realize how that pie broke out. So I had a conversation with someone recently, and they were like, "I'm really nervous about AI and data centers," and I'm like, stop scrolling on social media first. Like if we want to slow down the use of data centers and data, don't spend 6 hours scrolling on TikTok. Like start there, reduce your Netflix consumption, but who's going to stop doing that? And so obviously I agree. I think it's a
Yeah,
good thing.
I try not to doom scroll. I
Yeah.
don't have a Netflix account. I have Hulu just to be able to watch sports. That's about it. Don't watch a lot of TV.
So just Hulu and chill, no Netflix thing.
No.
Hulu and chill. Yeah, Hulu.
Yeah,
And
and it's honestly, I have Hulu to watch like sports, right? Like baseball, football, hockey, basketball. That's it.
Yeah. And also
Can
shout
I
out to Venezuela for taking the crown
What a
there. That was a
game.
hell of a
Yeah.
game.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, certainly sad to see the US lose, but Venezuela, I mean, they worked hard all the way through the classic and it was a nail biter in the end and they pulled it out.
Can I pivot for a minute? Because, regarding AI, I've experiencing this dichotomy that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around, where, there's a consistent desire for training and education. But on the other hand, there's a plethora of trainings. Like, I don't think I go a week without seeing somebody offering some webinar or some, educational session on AI. And this just exhaustion and this collective groan when, we announce an AI training, right? And I'm trying to, I guess, resolve this like two opposing forces where there's like this flood of training and webinars and all these different educational resources, but also this exhaustion of another webinar about AI, right? Are you all experiencing that too, or is it just me?
Yeah, definitely experiencing that. There's a lot of information. I felt like even going to ICMA last fall, it just seemed like every other booth was, AI related somehow and
Yep.
pushing AI. I'm sure it wasn't that many, but that's the way it felt.
No, it was a
Um,
lot.
yeah, it was a lot. And
It
I,
was.
I think my concern is I'm not sure like what to believe or who to trust because it is so new,
Right.
right? I still feel like we're pioneering. So I'm sort of like skeptical of everyone. I'm like, do you really know? Can you really teach me the right things? Can I really? So it is really challenging because I'm not sure what the vetting process is on the back end.
Yeah, Mike,
Yeah.
why should we trust you? Why
Yeah,
should we
Mike, I like you a
believe
lot. We've talked
that? Yeah,
before, but like that
you
is a
seem like you're
question,
on the
right?
level.
Like you're
Yeah.
talking about closed circuit AI, which is super interesting, but we didn't actually answer the question on this podcast of how do we ensure that it isn't infiltrated by all the junk that's out in the world.
Yeah.
It's a great
Mike is
point.
not actually a real person. He's actually AI this
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely this is an AI avatar. I'm sleeping right now.
Yeah.
So I think to your point, it comes back to data in, data out, garbage in, garbage out, Dave. One of the things that we focus on and allow control is if you have control of the data source, right? Let me back up for a second. There's something called AI temperature. It's this concept, it's a scale from 0 to 10. 10 is the AI is when you ask it a question in whatever context, it searches the entire internet. Like every corner of the internet, it can find anything from anywhere. That's the scary stuff, right? That's where hallucinations come into play. That's where information, like that's the scary stuff. AI temperature 0 means that AI is only using its technology from the sources you feed it, right? This is the Pac-Man concept. So like for us, if, for example, we only operate on AI temperature 0. So it's called a closed AI environment. It means like AI does its magic, but only trained on the information you give it and you feed it. And so I think that's where the control comes into play. The concern is like, I'm an employee of, Middletown, and I have a question. Sorry, Middletown, but
It's okay.
I have a question around benefits, or I have a question around, this particular topic. I toss personal information or any information in ChatGPT. You're now feeding the models for a global technology. The question is, so I think to answer your question, Dave, and this was like 8 minutes ago, is who the platforms that you use. It's really important to make sure how they're feeding the AI. What are the sources of the information that are being fed into their platform? Because AIs can be magical, but it really depends on what it's being fed.
So
So,
can somebody
yeah.
break into that environment and connect it to global AI? I think that's my question, right? So let's say Middletown purchases Rept. Can someone say, okay, I want to expand this environment? Someone inside my organization, I want to expand the environment that Middletown has acquired, and I'm going to connect it to a temperature 10 AI platform where all of a sudden all of the Middletown information is going into the global network, and all the global network is sort of seeping its way into the closed circuit Middletown network. How does the security around that work?
So just to be completely candid, I am not, I wish I were, a developer, technical expert, security expert. I am not one of those things. However, we do have one on staff.
That's good.
And one of the things I can tell you is the answer is the security is really tight. So the way that we've talked about it with other municipalities is Rept, and really most chatbots or functionalities that exist today. We are a mirror of your website, right? So whatever information is on your website, we've digested that information, put it into a brain, and when residents have questions, it pings the brain and provides an answer. If the information on your website changes, we will scrape that, find it, add it to the brain, and make it smarter. But it really comes down to the pipes. Like, where are the pipes connected? Are they only connected to your website? Then it makes it much more difficult for some random actor to come in and be like, I'm going to add my own pipe. There are security elements in place to make sure that no pipes can be added to that. But we only build the pipes into your website. That is it. That's all we're allowed to do. And
So
that's
two
where the
things that
safety element comes in.
requires you to have a really good website that is robust with lots of public information on it, which does not exist everywhere. I mean, that's a thing. And I guess my other question is, are you able to develop a closed circuit AI system that can exist internally for sort of data searching and scrubbing internally, right? If I have someone in finance who's writing, yeah, a research memo on, some sort of proposal, can they search our closed environment with our internal documents for, previous information that's been done or previous research that's been completed to inform their current research?
Yes. So the short answer is yes. And there are a number of players in the space that are starting to dig in here. I
Sure.
think a lot of the booths that you saw at ICMA probably had some
Element of that.
interest in this. Yeah, some element of this. The answer is yes. And it all comes down. And so, for example, we work with municipalities who have asked that specific question. Like, I want my employees to be able to pull information or document from 6 months ago, or find information, or even ask HR questions, right? So we have municipalities that are like, hey, I want to allow an employee to ask a bereavement leave question, or a question about my
That's cool.
401k. And the idea is like, yes, we absolutely can do that. And we're already doing it. It just comes down, and this is a big part of the onboarding process, I'm sure with a lot of technology platforms, is like, you tell us what sources are okay. You give us the list, put it in a file. That is the world we can play in, and that's how we make it safe. It's like, you tell us what's okay, and we'll just search that information and provide an answer. What effectively is happening with that is like, we take the information, we digest it, we build a copy of it, and we ping the copy. And every time you add a new question or a new piece of information, a new document, we add that document to the copy, and we ping that copy. If you remove something from that document, we remove it from the copy. But that's effectively what's happening. And to answer your question, Eden, yes, that can absolutely be done. It's something that we are currently working on with a couple of folks.
Yeah, and I would say that, like, to Ian's point about the reliability of the data that's on many of our municipal websites having such variability, and I don't really honestly think there's a relationship between the size of the resources of that municipality. There are small municipalities, very small. I'll shout out Bellefonte Borough, where I'm at right now, who has a really, I mean, when I say good website, I mean the data on there is fairly new. It's relatively consistent with one, across the board. Not saying there aren't inconsistencies and errors and things that are archaic and need to be replaced. There certainly are. But a big part of that, I think, is a lesson learned from this conversation and probably all the other AI webinars that Brandon was talking about that are kind of dominating the landscape in our discipline right now, is there's a lot of preliminary work that has to go into building those data points, building those databases, making sure that they are current, reliable, consistent amongst each other. And that's I think a useful exercise for us to go to, irrespective of whether we're taking advantage of some of this new technology. It'll just make everybody stronger for it. So don't shortcut, I guess, is the takeaway, the importance of having good, strong, reliable, consistent, valid data before you integrate some of this technology, because your product is going to be deeply affected, positively or negatively, by the quality of that input.
So I
Yeah.
just want to clarify something with you, Mike. When you talk about
Yes.
closed circuit AI, you're not just talking about a sophisticated search engine where the public can sort of search our website for public information, or internally our team can search sort of our internal network for information. It's also analyzing that information, right?
It digests it and spits it out in a way that's easier to consume. I have searched many a government website using their search bar and their search tab. It's not always the best experience. And oftentimes you'll get like a series of links of just like, here are the 7 different links that are connected to paying my utility bill. It's good that it found it, but AI takes it to the next level where it actually finds it, digests it, provides steps on how to pay it, and even in some cases can help you pay it.
So, for
So that's
example, if
the
we had a
difference.
closed circuit AI system from Repton Middletown and we wanted to do searches that helped us create an execution plan with goals that are consistent across the Parks and Rec master plan, the comprehensive plan, the multimodal transportation plan, and the official map, like if we started asking questions into your closed circuit, um, AI system, I don't know what to call it, would that start sort of analyzing all of those master plans and documents and meeting minutes where it's come up from different advisory committees and councils and the governing body, and sort of start help informing the research? Or is it just going to be picking out sort of everywhere that it's mentioned to give volumes of data to whoever's doing the search?
It depends on the prompt. It's an annoying answer, but
Yeah, it
garbage
is.
in,
But that's
garbage
okay.
out. It's okay. My wife tells me all the time.
Yeah, it depends is never a fun answer, but that's okay.
Yeah, but the answer, I mean, yes, it's if you ask it, if you ask, with a healthy prompt, like an in-depth prompt, like what specific are you asking for? AI can search that information. It will look through the documentation. It'll look through PDFs. It'll look through all the stuff that it's digested and provide an output that you're looking for. There's always a little bit of tinkering that comes with AI, and I think that's the education piece. But like, yes, in theory, that is totally doable and something that we are literally in the midst of exploring. And one thing I want to mention is April 21st is a big day because that is when ADA compliance, especially for municipalities of 50,000 and above, kicks in. So everybody right now, not everybody, but the majority of folks in local government are looking to update their website. That is like, people are sprinting
push.
towards that deadline.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we hear all the time is, and I just wanted to say, I apologize. I really don't want this to be like a sales pitch for Rep. That was not my
No, you're
intention
fine.
at all.
I'm asking you questions because I want to know the answer. And
Yeah, no,
as you
I
said earlier, you're not the only one in the space. You just happen to be the one on our podcast.
that is true. And the only bald one. So this race is happening towards April 21st. Municipalities are evaluating their websites and saying like, hey, we have giant holes, or like are missing a ton of data, or it's not up to date. That is the standard. I don't think there is a perfect municipal website that exists. It just does not exist. It will never exist. One of the things that has been really useful with respect to AI is, and we can actually point out the holes, right? Or for example, something that we have something called the contradiction report, which because we've scraped an entire website, we know if there are documents that contradict each other. And so we can, hey, these two documents have conflicting information. Or, hey, we're getting a bunch of questions on this topic and there's no answer. That's probably a hole that you can fill on your website. So AI can be really effective at identifying places on your website where the information doesn't exist or needs to be updated. And that's how we think about it when we talk to folks who are like, our website sucks. It's like, probably. But 90% of the information that people are asking about, paying a water bill, like when's the next council meeting, like that stuff, for the most part, is up to date.
I have a right to know request from somebody who is asking for 30 years of meeting minutes across multiple committees
Ooh.
and the governing body, wanting to see minutes related to a very specific topic. And it relates to any discussion regarding a crosswalk at a certain neighborhood into a park. 30 years. And so I have staff who are manually reading through meeting minutes, trying to find anywhere that this may have been talked about to give him that. In a closed circuit AI system, this sounds like it'd be a lot simpler.
Well, that's a good way to kind of get towards the conclusion of this discussion, because I want to know from all of you. By the way, Brandon and I were the ones that submitted that, so we expect the
You
we're
expect an
expecting
answer?
that.
Yeah.
We expect an answer pretty
5
quickly.
days, man. 5 days.
Well, and to your point, Mike, like we all know about this ADA deadline. You know how we know? Because as we approach these things, we get inundated with, hey, look at your website. I'm, so and so from this company, and I could do this for you. So there's always this correlation between the volume of solicitations that we get in management and these looming deadlines for regulatory compliance. That's like, okay, we know something's coming because I got 15 emails this week from every company under the sun about how they could help us. Not that they have any idea whether we have compliance already or not, but they're all saying, I've looked at your website and it's not compliant. Yeah, baloney. But whatever. I digress. So in closing, I want to hear your thoughts. Let's talk about the utopian future potentially of the application of this technology. What does it look like to you? Brandon, I want to get your feedback on this first. 10 years from now, AI's evolved exponentially in a good way, not the, childhood zen, cataclysmic 2001 Space Odyssey, Terminator, you name it from the Hollywood.
Yeah, I was going to say Skynet probably will resonate
Yeah.
with a lot more people.
What's
I was
the
gonna say
positive
retirement.
outcome? What does it look like in 10 years? Maybe it is retirement. Maybe we're all replaced and we just get to live lives of
I'm just
leisure
kidding.
and
Yeah.
whatever. Go ahead, Brandon. What do you think? Give us the sunny sky.
You know, in a perfect world, our utopia, municipalities have embraced AI. We've seamlessly integrated it into what we do to help not accelerate, but expand the capabilities of our staff, right? Now, in an ideal world, it would not result in staffing reductions, but, we can't make that promise as things
Right.
get
You can't.
streamlined.
That's a good point.
And municipalities have policies in place with clear expectations on the do's and don'ts. And that's, again, utopia, easier said than done, but that's where I see it.
Yeah. How about you, Eden?
Yeah, I think AI is coming whether local government is ready or not. So I think for me, in 10 years, I want to be able to say that we leaned in, learned, adapted, and try to utilize the tools that are out there in a smart but conscious way, and a deliberate way to sort of enhance the services that we provide and, deliver transparency to our community and make government more accessible to them. I mean, how many times have we been in conversations where we're talking about what time should the public meeting be because we want it to be accessible to, everyone in our community? And not everyone can make a 7 p.m. meeting. They're coming home from work, they're taking care of kids, they're going to sports programs, all that sort of stuff. I'm looking to solve even those little moments where we can sort of be more accessible and have everyone be a participant in their local government if that's something that they want and to get the answers that they need.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mike, I'm curious about your take on that. And two, also, what do you think? 10 years from now, rep is the rep dominates. Everybody's got rep. No, I don't know. What does it look like? What do you think the municipal climate in 10 years will look like with the evolution and development of artificial intelligence and what we do?
Two things stand out to me. One is education. I think AI can be really effective at helping residents, to your point, Eden, get information quickly and accurately. So in a utopian world, the data is clean, the information's accurate, and we're in a place where residents who have questions about their local community can be answered instantly, and they are at a point where they feel completely, educated on the work that's being done. And I think we're getting there, and it's gotten much better. But utopian residents have access to information; they are smarter, they're more informed, and in theory, that should lower the sort of anger level. And then two, it's
Not sure about that.
Yeah, that's a hot take.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very hot take,
Fair.
right? Sometimes
I
they're
think
very informed, which is why they're very mad.
Exactly.
This is, well, I would argue they in a number of cases, and I'm not in your shoes, they're misinformed. And so, but this is utopian. We're talking utopia over here. I think the second piece is storytelling. I think we as leaders, y'all as municipal managers, leading communities, we cannot stray away from the human storytelling element. That's where we lose. I think the moment that we stop telling stories, stop informing and creating a human environment to connect is where we lose. And so I would say in a utopian, in 10 years from now, residents have access to helpful information in a way that they can consume it in the way their learning styles. Ask a question and it works for you and your everything. It just makes sense.
Wholeheartedly agree, Mike.
And
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time talking this hour, and I wanted to get to, and we just didn't have a chance. Maybe another episode in the future, but we spent a lot of time talking about the integration between the community and the municipality and community engagement tools and how we can be more transparent and accountable to the public, to our boards, to our staff. But what excites me most, honestly, is what I don't know. The questions I don't know to ask that AI will give us some more insight and intuition to help tackle. For example, how are we going to integrate AI into our fixed asset management and our pavement and programs? Like we're in the process of deploying a tool right now in Bellefonte Borough that's an AI-driven road analysis software. This was a
We have that. What are you
heavily
using?
Violytics?
Yeah, we're using Violytics. It's great.
Violytics?
Yeah, it's doing a great job, and it's basically producing the multi-year sort of paving program that we have.
And think about, this, Eden and Brandon, I mean, how manual a process that once was. I mean, you
Yeah, remember
had
the
to
olden days where you'd send your public works
woohoo.
director out and they drive each road and see how they fared over the
Ah,
winter? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, the old
that
days,
wasn't that long ago.
3 years ago. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's like way back in the day when we had to do base analysis of our road
Yeah.
network manually.
Right.
Yeah, so it's such a fast-paced evolution, and
Yeah.
I think about it in terms of information mining, which is your point, Eden, about your staff, the opportunity cost that goes along with having to have a staff person or multiple staff people poring over decades of minutes trying to find keywords. I mean, all the things they could be doing that they don't have the time to because they have to meet these statutory deadlines, but also in the analytics piece of it, the pavement management analyses, the trend line analysis, helping us develop our budgets, our reports, our plans in a way that integrates those data points and gives us things to consider that we just might have walked right by. I mean, there's brilliant people that do what we do, and then there's me, but there's also a lot of people that understand data, but it doesn't mean that human error is not prevalent in everything that we do. AI in a perfect utopian future will help to close that gap, will help to eliminate those mistakes, will give us trends and data analyses that we may not have otherwise saw so that we can be better stewards of our, taxpayer resources. We can be better leaders for our organizations and our communities, and we can give better information and policy options to our elected officials. That's my utopian future. We'll get into the next episode, the dystopian and the T-1000 that's coming after Sarah Connor, but that's another.
Hey, Dave, you know about integrating AI? You should probably ask AI how to integrate AI. See what happens.
That is
That'll
absolute.
disturb the matrix. That'll
Wow.
send
Yeah,
the
it
ripple.
might. It just might. I should have taken the blue pill.
I had one sort of interesting use case. This happened a couple weeks ago. I was up in Boston, where my mother-in-law and my wife's family is, and she made salmon for dinner.
Nice.
And she's like, "Hey, Mike, would you mind just getting a bottle of wine?" And I was like, "Sure." And I am not
Not a wino?
sommelier.
You're
Not
I mean,
not a
I
sommelier.
enjoy a glass, but I went to the liquor store and I was like, man, what goes well with the salmon and the topping and the sides she's making? I literally took a photo of a giant rack of wine and added that photo to ChatGPT. And I was like, hey, what goes well with salmon and rice and whatever broccoli was she making? And instantly it gave me an evaluation and a list of the top 3 wines I should use
Nice.
that pair well. And it's like, that's the practical application
Yeah.
that I
That's
think we can
usefulness
use.
of it all.
And
Yeah,
it
it's
didn't involve
keys.
arsenic or any of those fatal ingredients that the other chatbot. You must have asked
No,
the right
I love my
chatbot that
mother-in-law,
questions.
Dave. I don't know what you're talking about.
Shout out to the mother-in-laws of the world.
Did you try the wine? Did you like it?
Yeah, it was
Did it
good.
pair
I
well?
mean,
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
it did a good job.
AI at
Perfect.
its finest.
There
There's
you
a
go.
go.
utopian outcome right there. That's
There
a
you
good.
go.
That's a good
Perfect.
take.
Fine wine.
That wraps up another installment of Generation on the Rise. We're excited to be back. Great to see all of you again. Great topic, great discussion. We really, I think, got a little deeper into the pitfalls and the promise of this technology. So, looking forward to the episodes that lie ahead, and looking forward to seeing you guys all next week. Thanks for listening and
Mike,
tuning
thanks for
in.
joining us. We appreciate
Thanks
it.
Thanks for joining us,
to our
Mike.
Thanks
guests.
for having me, gents. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Bye.